What is good, team? Welcome back to the channel. Kicking off today's session, which is our obscure full body session, hamstrings, delts, and arms or biceps mainly. So kicking this off 2 hard sets, a little bit higher reps, so almost like pre-fatigue the hamstrings before we move into the hinges. So 2 sets, 10 to 15 on the seated leg curl before moving into some RDLs, which is week 2, kind of moving into that RDL hinge pattern, which has been really nice and enjoying having those back in the plan. So plan is to be sensible, not go crazy, but the idea is to really train a hamstring. So by pre-fatiguing, we certainly make sure the hamstrings do the most work when we get into those hinges. So get stuck into this first working set, aiming for about 15 on this 5 kilo load increase from last week. So moving on to hinge. I've opted for the barbell RDL this week because last week was really easy, and I feel as though I'm gonna run out of room to progress very quickly. Last week was like super easy sets of 15 with 40 kilo dumbbells. I likely would have jumped to 50 this week. Dumbbells only go up to about 60, 65 here, so before I get too deep into this block, I'm just gonna move it to barbell for the remaining weeks, but I'm just gonna take my load progressions a little bit smaller. Barbell does give me the ability to kind of micro load as well. I can go up by 2.5 kilos for the smallest increments. And I'll probably just go a little bit heavier today. So like total load for the dumbbells last week was 80 kilos. I might go like 110, 120 today. This is 120 now, so I'll feel this out. Give it a crack. I'm gonna go no belt. So I've opted for no belt on a lot of my hinge variations as well, just to keep my technique at the forefront, to avoid letting my ego take over and try and rely on stuff to lift heavier, as opposed to like just using the muscles that I want to use in order to train them effectively. So last warm up here, maybe 2-3 reps, see how it feels, make a decision on here where I want to go with load. All right, that felt good. That was a top set 140 for 8. Really comfy, back off set now. Gonna keep this sort of 10 to 12. So I've knocked it back 20 kilos down to 120. And I think this is a really nice way to go about your heavy sort of multi-joint barbell compound movements, is that top set back off method, but also just not going too crazy close to failure. So what we know about hypertrophy now is like, man, you can train like 7 reps shy from failure and still build muscle. So not that you should train that far away from failure, because proximity to failure is probably the most important factor when it comes to building muscle. But it's just about making logical decisions on when to implement that type of training, so how hard you should be training on specific exercises. So when we're looking at these like multi-joint barbell compound movements that are, you know, quite skill-based, they do have a difficulty component, you want to probably stay further away from failure because the likely progressions will be load progressions all of the time. You're probably going to stay in that lower rep range, somewhere in the 6 to 10. So you don't want technique to break down because the risk of injury just gets so much higher. There's just like far less reward. So for me, typically I'll keep these movements at like a, you know, 2 to 3 RIR in most cases. And then on my isolation movements, I'll probably get, you know, 0, 1 RIR. So I did get, you know, 1 rep in reserve sort of on the lying, the seated leg curl, where this, you know, probably like 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Want to keep it pretty strict, want technique to be, you know, solid. I want load progressions every week. And the objective isn't to absolutely rinse myself where my technique breaks down and the risk of injury does get higher. Okay, hamstrings are proper mangled now, so we can move on to the upper body stuff. So 1 set of overhead press here, taking a load progression from last week. Working set 6 to 10, so I've just gone up 5 kilos on this. Objective is to get a little bit closer to fail this time, so arguably we need to go heavier. And then moving on to some biceps, triceps, and delts. So big fucking session. But again, I really like this session structure. It's been a nice way to kind of get some stuff done for a muscle group, then move on. And I had this conversation a few times with clients this week around like why maybe flogging like your entire chest for a full workout and then your entire back for a full workout isn't a better idea. Not to say that higher frequencies are any better, but I just think logically, if you think about what it takes to build muscle or maintain muscle in a dieting phase, it's like strength progression or strength maintenance in the presence of enough volume and protein intake. So if logically we just do a couple of exercises for a muscle group in a given session, it stays pretty fresh. We can hit it again later in the week, so we get kind of 2 exposures. And I'd argue the more exposures you get to hard training, the more muscle you grow. So logically, if we're getting more exposures at a higher quality with progression each week, it's probably like a good recipe to build muscle. So anyway, that's my thoughts. That's how I set up my programming, especially on the Ultimate Physique app. If you guys haven't checked it out, go click the link in my bio, check it out. But a lot of the program is based around like scientific principles, around evidence-based practices, and what works practically both in like my own training and what I've seen anecdotally with my clients in a client setting. Because I think that's where it's really important as a coach to be able to find what works in the research and also how that works anecdotally with clients in the real world. And that's kind of where you get the best approach for training for real people in the real world. Anyway, I'll shut up. I'll do this set 6 to 10, 5 kilos up from last week. Very easy. So that was a double progression. That was 5 kilos up from last week, 2 reps up from last week, and probably a sign that my recovery is good. And then I've got adequate nutrition on board because we've had 3 high days back to back. So certainly happy to take those progressions when they come in the presence of better recovery, better nutrition, and just overall low fatigue, which is a fantastic spot to be like 6 weeks out from the show. So once the shoulder press done, onto some triceps and then biceps. All right, 1 set here on the tricep pushdowns on the prime bar. So I showed you guys this last week. Like some gyms have this as like, it's a pretty old school machine actually. It's like a back supported tricep pushdown, which I think is fantastic. Again, with stability, really allowing more output. I think it's certainly not a bad idea to prioritize stability, especially like tricep pushdowns where you see so many people use really shitty techniques, swinging around, bending over, letting the bar slam. I really think just having something you can lock in place, stick your elbows into your side and just bend the elbows to contract the triceps is certainly a much better way to kind of get the most out of your tricep extensions. Even more so, you could potentially do these like on an incline bench, back supported, offers the same sort of advantages in terms of just driving more stability and more output to the target tissue. So 1 working set here. I've gone up like 1.25 kilos from last week, aiming for around the same reps, 8 to 12. So I'll be stoked if I get 12 on this. Oh yes, 12 reps up from last week, come on. Carbs are good. All right, onto the arm portion of this workout. So I've spoken about this heaps, but just like time efficient techniques or time efficient training strategies that you can utilize to increase your workout efficiency, i.e. get more work done in the same amount of time, or get the same amount of work done in just way less time. One of them being like antagonist, agonist paired supersets, basically opposing muscle groups. So this one, just to kind of cut down on this workout time, because I've got lots of unilateral stuff. So rather than just like doing straight sets, single arm, moving on to the next exercise, I'm just pairing them. So I'm basically just doing left arm, right arm for my overhead tricep extensions, left arm, right arm for my bicep curls, resting for a minute and just repeating that. So I get like 4 sets done, or 4 sort of, back-to-back exercises done in the space of like what I would do in 2 sets. So it just really cuts down on my workout time. I think that's a really smart way to go about it, especially if you're someone who's time poor, you're busy, you don't have hours to spend in the gym. There is certainly nothing wrong with using these types of techniques to get the same amount of work done in far less time without compromising on your progression or your muscle growth. right, we are almost done. So again, utilizing those antagonist paired sets, bicep with delt this time. So again, it doesn't have to be like opposing muscle groups, doesn't have to be like bicep, tricep, or chest back. It's just generally any muscle group that doesn't have any overlap. So biceps, I can hit this, I've got single arm preacher curl, and then I've got single arm lateral raise. So there's no interference between those two muscle groups. It allows me to kind of rest strategically. So once I hit the biceps are fatigued, I'm gonna go over, hit some lateral delts, gives my biceps an opportunity to rest before I come back and do my biceps again. So rather than having to hit biceps, rest a minute or two, then do another set of biceps, then go and do delts, I can just use my rest periods to kind of rest the muscle group that I'm about to hit again. Because again, there's no overlap, there's no issues with fatigue accumulating between those two muscle groups. So again, super simple strategy. You can utilize it for pretty much any like muscle group where there is no interference. So again, it could be like opposing, push-pull, chest back, bicep, tricep, quad ham, or it could just be like different muscle groups that have no overlap. Delts, biceps, it could be hamstrings and chest, it could be delts and back. You can do peripheral supersets where it's like upper, lower. It doesn't really matter how you structure it. It's just finding a way that makes the most sense for you in order to kind of meet your training objectives and goals. Alrighty guys, that is last session in the books. Actually no, this is the first session. It's supposed to be Saturday, but we've been taking Saturdays off training Sunday. So technically this is like workout 1 of this week, so to speak, from Saturday to Friday. Hams, arms, delts, fucking big session, but really good session. Another awesome training week in the books for us progression-wise. Moving into that 7-week out mark, getting closer to 6 weeks out from next week. New low body weights, body composition getting better every week. So very, very excited to keep these rolling through up until prep is done. I've got a few shows planned, so Sydney one coming up first, Pro Qualifier Nationals in Melbourne second, and then we're jetting over to the other side of the world for a couple of shows in Spain, it looks like. So very excited to take you guys along for the journey, and I can't wait to get up there. It's been a nice year of making progress in these build phases, but very excited to get back up on stage after a year off. So as always guys, support means the world to me. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys in here for tomorrow's pool session, I believe.